Welcome to the Hoof and Fang podcast. I'm Kirt Graves.
And I'm Maz Maddox.
How's life?
Life is good. So yesterday we got hit with some pretty gnarly storms, like so much so that, so at like noon yesterday, we get an alert on our phone and leadership is like, everybody go home. It's going to be a crazy storm. They canceled school. Like, go pick up your kids, get out of here. I was like, okay, right? Because according to my app, like we weren't supposed to get storms until like 7 at night. So I was like, okay, sure. So I went home, set up, worked from home, normal thing. The rain started coming in around like 5.
Okay.
And we heard the tornado sirens go off at around 6. When I looked outside, and this is me being that asshole that like the sirens are going off and I go outside to go check on things.
Yeah.
So I lean outside and I'm like, we're fine. And of course, Alex is like, I'm not trusting just your eyeballs. Like the sirens are going off. Get in the freaking bathroom. So I wrangle the cats, put them in the bathroom. Poor Jinx. Like when I take him to the vet, I put him in the bathroom so I can funnel him into the carrier. So he thought he was going to the vet. So he started panicking and shaking, which made me feel like an asshole.
Oh.
And then, so we're sitting in the bathroom for a full hour. Nothing happens. Everything's fine. Finally get out of the bathroom. And like, it was heavy rain, but they were saying there was going to be like softball size hail and like all this stuff. I left my car in the parking garage and had Alex come get me so we could leave one car safe, and we like wedged the other one in the garage. Like the garage is filled with like the previous owner's stuff. So we had to like push a bunch of stuff out of the way and then like wedge the car in. Mm-hmm. So it was this whole thing. And then it turned out to be nothing. Like, I guess best case scenario, I don't know why I'm being so snarky about there not being a tornado, but
yeah, it really sucks that tornado they promised me didn't show up.
I mean, at least knock down a tree. Like,
I'd like to talk to their manager.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a very dramatic night that ended up being for nothing. But it's really pretty day outside today because of the storms. Like, it's like 70 degrees and really cool, so it's nice. But yeah.
Well, that's good.
That was
the weather's real crummy up here. It's gotten cold and rainy again.
This sucks.
Yeah, it does. But
it's May.
I don't really care that much because we're leaving. I'm leaving town. So whatever the weather here doesn't matter much to me after tomorrow. So
exactly. Yeah. I think it's supposed to
get off the ground. As long as a plane can get off the ground.
Yep.
I'm good to go.
Yep. Same. I think it's going to be clear until like Friday afternoon here, and then it's going to start storming, and I'm like, ha, because I think it's going to be beautiful in Portland like the whole weekend.
Upper 60s, low 70s, overcast is what I've seen, but I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't like sunshine anyways.
I like it from inside. Like I like looking at it, but I don't like being in it. So.
Yeah.
What
are you feeling?
You?
I'm just working and getting shit done and trying to be ready for this conference we're going to.
It's all your stuff printed and ready to go?
Yes. Although, as we discussed via Messenger, somehow we totally had it wrong how many people were going to this conference. Because I just had it in my head that it was like around 200. And they kept saying we're going to keep it small and intimate. And I was like, yep, makes sense. So like I printed enough, or I was bringing enough like swag and merch for what I thought was 200 attendees.
Mm-hmm.
It's 450. So it truly is going to be first come, first serve. Those who listen to this podcast, you're hearing it now. Yeah. The Saturday signing that happens tomorrow when this podcast comes out.
Yes.
You better get to my table before like the first half. You better be in the first half. Otherwise you're not getting
dude, same.
The phone stands that I talked about last week and that I put on my socials. And I was really excited by the reception that got.
Good.
People seem excited. And I'm like, great. Yeah.
Yeah. Please come take
them. The word.
Right? Like,
yeah.
You don't want to take them home. So, I mean, we discussed that too. Like silver lining, hopefully we don't have stuff to take back. Like I'm bringing all the extra stickers I have. I also like went through my stuff to make sure that I knew where like my table runner is. Found a bunch of pins and buttons I forgot I had. So I was
awesome.
Like,
yeah.
Good. glad I didn't order a bunch of shit then.
Exactly.
So-
And I shipped my stuff in advance, but like just to fill the boxes, I pulled out I had some branded coloring pencils and some pens and like old, I did postcards for GRL in 2018 and I still have a ton of them.
Nice.
Those are coming with me. Who cares if it says greetings from GRL? I don't care. It's something to sign and give to people, like I can do that.
Yeah.
So I was like, and I just packed all that stuff in the box because I was like, I just want to fill the space. And now I'm so glad I did because all that stuff is going to be there, and I will have giveaway items beyond just the
awesome phone stands. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, I've got to figure out how to. Well, all the stuff that I'm bringing is relatively small, and like the stand thing breaks down into slats. So pretty confident I can fit everything in there, and then all the like accessories and clothing and stuff I've got to pack. But yeah, that's going to be
somehow that all has to make it there too.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check a bag, and I'm not thrilled about it, but it's fine.
Yeah, same. But yeah, so I mean, I'm just getting stuff done and trying to stay focused when I know that this is on the horizon, and like I still have to record Monday through Wednesday this week. When it's like, oh, it would have been really nice to not have to do that, to not have to need a normal week's worth of concentration for these 3 days. But alas, people are giving me work, and I said yes to it. So,
yeah, I'm very much in it's starting to sink in that I'm leaving soon. So concentrating at work is becoming very hard to do.
Yeah.
My nice corporate job, I'm like, get on a plane like soon. Like I need to pack. I need to, oh my God, where are those pants I want to wear? And like, do I need to charge my laptop? Like just, the normal stupid stuff. So
yeah. Did you figure out an outfit for the red dress party?
Yeah. So I've remembered it was red themed, but I forgot it was red themed. Like I remember the color, not the reading. So
I don't think that matters. I think you can go either way.
Yeah. Did it just get dark?
Yeah, super did.
Clouds. That's very bright. I have the window open, and that's what I've been using. There we go. But yeah, so I'm going to repurpose the red dress from Allure when we did that, and that crown thingy I still have somehow is still alive. So I'm going to use that. And yeah, I think it's just going to be that because I don't have anything else. So, but I saw you teasing what yours is going to look like. So yours is going to be cool as hell, I'm sure.
It's a little bit cosplay with a touch of glamour.
Love.
And it's red.
Yes. So. Perfect.
Yeah. Perfect. So we'll hopefully people like it. It is. I will say I was working on it this weekend, and John walked downstairs and was like, "Oh, that looks really cool." And I was like, "Okay, that's good."
Yeah. Awesome.
That's the reaction I wanted.
Good.
So hopefully other people also find it really cool.
I'm sure it'll be very awesome.
But we won't say anything more about that.
Yes, it's secret.
We do want it to be a wee bit of a surprise still for the Saturday evening ball. And then as promised, we will be releasing some snippets about what's going on at Queers and Quills through our Patreon so our followers can see what's going on. Yeah. And speaking of Patreon, Animorphs reactions are back as of this week. On Wednesday, you should have gotten the first episode of season 2. Those will continue now as we proceed through season 2 of Nickelodeon's Animorphs.
Yes.
And again, that's the place to be if you want to have some input on how we are moving forward with rebranding this podcast. So,
yeah, that's the place to be.
But again, the most pressing thing is just like the Queers and Quills updates. That's where they're going to be first. So, and some exclusive things that we won't post other places. We promise.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So fun stuff. Excited.
Exactly. So what are we talking about this week?
So I stumbled upon something recently that kind of got on my nerves. So I couldn't wait to talk to you about it because it'll also get on your nerves.
Yeah.
That there's a weird trend starting now that we've kind of seen a little bit in some of the tropes, but now it's kind of, for whatever reason, branching into things that I think don't make any sense. But there's a term in tropes where they use reverse for things, like reverse harem. Instead of it being like a guy and a menagerie of women, it's a woman and a menagerie of boys. And you see it more typically in like straight romances. But they've started to use it in like weird situations, like reverse age gap. What the hell does that mean? And the one I think that finally was like, all right, fuck it, we got to talk about it, was reverse grumpy sunshine. How do you reverse grumpy sunshine? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So yeah, I wanted to talk about why that's dumb. All the reasons why it's dumb.
Yeah. You say talk, but you mean bitch. You
Yes,
want to bitch
bitch.
about it. Yeah. I mean,
This is a bitch session because I don't like
right.
it.
Now, I will say, doing all of the Queers and Quills interviews, I learned a new term that I did not know we were using now instead of reverse harem,
Okay.
which is a why choose romance.
Yeah. See, I like that better.
I personally don't care, but
I guess I'm more like, it's important to me because I'm like, oh, I can use that for future marketing things. But like, I like why choose instead of harem. Like, I think there's a lot of connotations that go with harem anyway that can be kind of like, but
yeah, probably.
yeah. But yeah, it's just such a weird thing to put guardrails on when it comes to roles and relationship dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like previously stated, I think it's mostly prevalent in straight romances, but apparently it is starting to like trail into queer stuff, which really doesn't make any fucking sense.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say if the roles are gendered and you're doing like reverse age gap and it's reverse because the woman is older and the guy is younger,
right?
That's annoying, but at least it makes some sense. Like you were saying, this is taking the conventional ideas of how we approach romance and we're flipping it on its head.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We're putting the woman in the position of power, whether that be she is older or she's the boss or she's the billionaire, you know, and the guy is the other thing, you know?
Right.
I get it. Like just from a marketing perspective, I get that. Grumpy Sunshine broke me.
Yeah, same. That was definitely, I was commented on where I first saw it because a friend of mine who posted about it and ignited the whole thing. So I had to ask, I was like, how the hell do you reverse Grumpy Sunshine? And it was another thing, like typically the males are grumpy and the females are sunshine, I guess. So if you reverse it, the women are grumpy. So, but that can be problematic because, you know, women are then perceived as like bitchy or something. It just made my nose bleed at that point. Like, I'm like, women are allowed to be grumpy. Like, I'm grumpy right now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, oh God, I fucking hate it. But let me see, what do I have on here? So, yeah, one of the things I kind of want to touch on is why this is queer exclusionary. Like, I think the thing that I really started like spinning my wheels on is this is all rooted in really, really structured, ironclad gender roles, which I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, I assume you're also with us when you go like, yeah, we should be walking away from those anyway. But these are reinforced in this type of fiction to the point now where if you try to break out of the mold, you have to, like to your point, the marketing strategy where you have to flip it on its head because women are grumpy. I hate it. And I don't even understand how you could weave it into a queer story because I mean, queer relationships are already different than straight ones to begin with. So, yeah. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean,
otherwise I'm just going to keep ranting.
I'm struggling between two camps right now.
Okay.
And the first one is I just truly don't care. I really don't, and I think nobody should, and I think we should just let people, even like when we started saying boy love instead of MM, and then it was Achillean instead of boy love. It's like we keep changing the terms, and I think the goal is to be more inclusive, like to widen the net. But there's a part of me that's like, couldn't we all have just agreed that MM doesn't have to mean exclusively two dudes? It could just mean there is somewhere in the story a gay context. Could we just call it gay? Could we just call it queer? Like, does it have to be so specific? And like that's mostly where I am. But then there's the other part of me that like, I get that we are living in Amazon's economy and they want keywords. We are living in a world of hashtags. And so it's not enough just to write a story that breaks conventions. You have to then hyper communicate why it's not the thing you're saying it sort of is. Because it's sort of that, but it's not. And if it's not exactly what you say it is, then a reader's going to get mad and somebody's going to write a terrible review because you said it was going to be this, but it's not that, because it's not what it normally is. And I'm used to this thing. And I mean, I have had, like, I run into that sometimes. In doing all of these interviews for Queers and Quills, I cannot tell you the number of times somebody was like, oh, I thought it would be like this because that's what it was like for this other podcast I did. And it's like, why do you take your experience with a totally different person and process and think that that is what it's going to be for everybody?
Yeah.
Especially when I give you really clear instructions as to how things are going to go. But besides that,
Yeah.
like, I made it very clear it wasn't going to be this thing that you thought it was. But like, that's the excuse. You know, it's like, oh, well, I did this other podcast and they thought it was me. So like, I read this other Grumpy Sunshine romance and it was like the older guy was grumpy and the younger guy was sunshine, and that made sense. But this thing is different. The younger one's grumpy, and so it's not Grumpy Sunshine. It's reverse Grumpy Sun. It's like, shut up.
Yeah.
So if, first of all, if we were all just cool, if we all were just cool and like didn't say that somebody, because we understand it's just a marketing genre categorizing exercise that you have to fit into one of these little buckets on Amazon. And we get that, and we know that within that bucket there can be some variations. Then we wouldn't have to then also worry about being hyper specific when you're trying to sell a book.
Yeah.
But we're not cool. People are not cool. They want to be upset about things. We're in the era of being upset about things. We want to be mad. And so that's why I think this exists. I think this exists because people can't wrap their mind around experiencing something that's just a little bit different than the thing they've experienced before.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. And I think we fall into that trap a lot when it comes to especially within the romance genre. It is very, not structured. Like, it's very specific. Like, people really have, like, I want a romance about best friends who used to be really close. They're no longer friends, but then they have to fall back in love after a fight. Otherwise, I don't want to read it. You know, like, it's very, very, very specific. So if you're in a genre that like you have to hit these exact things, otherwise people won't pick it up or you won't get recommended, I can see that for sure. 100%. Because I mean, I have to market my shit. I get it. And like, sometimes I really have to dig out what the tropes are because I'm a little trope minded. I'm not going to be like, I don't think about tropes when I write, because that's obviously not true. But yeah, sometimes I have to mine a little bit and be like, does it count for hurt comfort for this? Or like, is it technically second chance if it was 100 years ago? That kind of shit. So like, you kind of really have to get really specific because yeah, if I put the wrong thing on there, I will piss off a lot of people or their expectations will be wrong. And I don't want that either, right? Like, I don't want people to be like, you said it was enemies to lovers and they're best friends throughout the whole thing. What are you doing? So, but yeah, I definitely get it from a marketing standpoint. Like, but that's also kind of, you know, is it on the authors at this point to start finding better language for it? Like, you know, what can we do as authors to be a little bit more inclusionary with our language instead of saying reverse? Like, how do you get that point across? If it's like, okay, well, I'm doing something a little bit different with this trope, but I should be allowed to do that. And also women can be grumpy, you know?
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, it's going to have to be a transition period, and no one author can do it alone.
Right.
Because you're going to, even if you want to introduce a new term, you're going to have to do that alongside the old term so people know what the hell you're talking about. And then enough people have to use it so that it becomes an accepted part of the lexicon.
Yeah.
So how do you do that as an author? I don't fucking know.
Well, because I remember, I think the only one that I was around for professionally that like I saw the complete tide shift was the gay for you trope becoming bi awakening, which I'm so happy they did because it's a terrible name for that trope. But yeah, I remember it slowly had to change over time. And I still think it's used sprinkled in, but it's not as prevalent.
I think though that too was not just a change of categorization. I think that was a shift in our understanding of what these stories should represent.
Yes.
And I think, you know, gay for you really was problematic. Bi awakening can still be problematic. I don't love all the bi awakening stories I've read because some of them, it is just a new label on the old trope. It is still like, guy was totally straight until he met this one person, and then he's like, actually, I do like dick. I never would have known, you know? It's marketed as bi awakening. It's still gay for you.
Yeah, for sure.
where the attitude shift has happened is in like the types of those stories that are told. You know, like understanding that like there are people who are like, yeah, I understand that people have categorized me as straight because I've only dated women, but I've always known that I am interested in men as well. And so then it is like sort of a, I'm coming out for you instead of I'm becoming gay for you. And like, that is marginally better.
Yeah. At least it's more of a like, I've just never really gotten a chance to explore that side of myself instead of magic. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and then it's always accompanied by feelings too. So it's like, oh, I had a sexual awakening because of feelings for this person. And it's like, no, there are tons of like down low guys all across the world who are off having non-feeling homosexual encounters. And they know damn well what they like. And it has nothing to do with a boy's pretty eyes or like his smile. It's just like, they understand that's a part of who they are sexually. They don't want other people to know about it, so they do it on the down low. But that doesn't make for a fun romance, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it has to
ruins
be
the
fluffed
fun.
up and you know, like, oh, this person's so beautiful. It makes me like I fall in love, not so much just I mean, there's definitely stories out there where it's just, you know, it's just sex and that's fine. But yeah, for most romances, it's usually it's got to be a little bit more fluffy.
Well, and we see a lot. This conversation is going in another direction. We do see too a lot of like, I think there's resistance sometimes to make the characters like really flawed. Like beyond just grumpy. Like they're not just like a sort of standoffish personality, but like I could see a bi awakening story where the impetus, the beginning of one of them is that they were married and they got caught doing things they got caught cheating, or they got caught looking at things on the internet that their wife did not approve of. Like that would be, to me, an interesting, more real life example of how some men enter the dating world, the gay dating world, later in life. And it's because they got outed by their own behavior. They made mistakes. They cheated on someone. They were unfaithful.
Yeah.
And then you know, they heal from that, and then they find someone new, and then they create a new life. Like that is a romance story, but it's not one I've read.
Yeah. You know? I think the more earlier romances I read, like when I first got into the genre, I found a couple. Of course, now I don't remember what they're called. I'd have to dig them out. But like, I remember that being more prevalent. Like, I remember specifically one, I think that was like FBI agents or cops or something, where the dude was married and then fell for this dude and ended up cheating on his wife and then had to confront his wife on the page about it. And I remember being like it was interesting. Like I remember that now. I deeply wish I could remember the book. But I know that's a hard no for a lot of people. And I think people have since shifted away from it because if there's cheating on page, then understandably people, you know, probably have lived through maybe not a one for one, but like people don't like it at all, which again, I get, but also it is interesting and people are flawed and people fuck up like that.
But that's where, like, to me, that is such a part of the real world that if we say we're just not going to go there, we're not going to tell that story.
Yeah.
Well, then what we're doing is we're putting a real part of the queer experience, like, behind the curtain. Saying this very real thing that happens, this very real journey that a bunch of people go through. And it doesn't even have to be like cheating on a wife. Sometimes people meet the love of their life and cheat on their partner, their same-sex partner, you know? And like, we don't talk about that either. So, you know, I guess to tie it into our previous conversation, like there is this intolerance for things that aren't exactly what we want them to be.
Yeah.
I think it would be really great if, as a community, we worked towards finding interest in things that challenge us a little bit. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't like, as bad as certain behaviors are, like short of murdering somebody, like we all do shitty things. And we all hope to be forgiven. And like it's a part of being human. And like sometimes the characters on the page just seem a little, it contributes to a feeling of like two-dimensional characters. Like, well, they've never done anything wrong. Like their whole issue, the whole reason they're not out having a successful dating life is because they're grumpy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
right.
and plus they're always exceptionally hot,
Of course.
like that grumpy, exceptionally hot gentleman hasn't dated somebody in years. He's practically a virgin.
Yeah, give me a break. We all know hot assholes that get plenty of action. Give me a break. Well, usually the people who are that ridiculously attractive, they don't have to be booming in the personality department.
Right, exactly.
So,
exactly.
give me a break.
Well, and that's another issue with the bi-awakening thing too, is like sometimes it's treated too much like a second virginity.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is meaningful because you're my first. And it's like, we got to stop that. Because that's riddled in misogyny as well.
No shit. I am not a fan of the virgin stuff. Like that shit is a construct. I'm vehemently against it. I just think it's just drummed up as this like gross innocence, like purity culture nonsense that we've, for whatever reason, just let bleed over into everything. Like I fucking hate it. So, but we can have a whole episode about that shit. But yeah, no, to your point, like I think, especially in the queer romance community, it's hopefully getting a little bit better, but I don't read like more of the more gritty, angsty stuff. So maybe this is moot, but we do have a problem, I think, with allowing characters to be ugly and like both physically and personality wise, like just having flaws and fucking up and needing to grow a little bit more in the story instead of it just being, they're shy or they're unsure of themselves and stuff like that. I'm like, I mean, they could just be genuinely going through some shit.
And not having those aspects be a part of the story that is meant to be appealing to someone. Because we do have dark and bully romances where people are truly awful.
Yeah.
But somehow they become like those qualities are the reason for the story instead of like an obstacle to overcome.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely in again, not to yuck anybody's yum. If you love bully romances, rock on. That's great. But like, I like seeing somebody who realizes like, oh yeah, no, I'm hurting other people, or I'm
and realizes it in the moment.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That's because like the bully romances are often like they at some point like they meet the right person and suddenly they see the error of their ways, and it's like that's not how people are. Oftentimes when we are doing things that we know to be wrong, like we know it as it's happening. We're not blindly moving through life hurting people and being like, oh, I had no idea. You mean when I was beating that kid up, he didn't like it? That was wrong? Yeah, there's a better way to treat people? Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, because there is that other side of it too, where like the meanness is the point, or like the gangster, the motorcycle club, romances where like they're truly doing awful shit and nobody cares. Like it's not, it doesn't matter. It's like that's also a whole other thing. We're talking about just like characters who are allowed to be flawed, to make really upsetting mistakes and still grow from those experiences.
Yeah.
Because and this is just anecdotal, this is my experience. I haven't read many where somebody's really allowed to fuck up.
Yeah.
Like on the page. And when I say allow, I mean the author is allowing the characters to do bad things.
Yeah. Then
finds their way to redemption, or even like halfway to redemption. Forgiveness. Yeah. Somebody's able to look past it and they work together, but they're still like, no, I know I have to keep this in mind that you are a person who cheats. And like that's going to be a part of the relationship dynamic. And it's like, so
I think I would be like, I get it from an author standpoint of like, I would be, well, especially my brand does not hold that at all. But if I was more of a not whimsical idiot when it comes to my stories, I would be scared to write that, because I think a lot of staunch like romance readers would really not put up with that shit. And I could be wrong. Like if you're listening to this, tell me I'm wrong. But yeah, it's a hard cutoff. There you've got a small camp of people being like, love that people fuck up, they can grow. But for I feel like the majority of readers, it'd be like, I hate this guy. Like I don't want to read this. He sucks. Because
I'm going to push back against that a little bit.
Okay.
And say that I think there are a lot of people who say they have hard lines.
But not really.
But that they are happy to cross them if the story is that good.
That's true. Yeah, I'll give you that.
If the work is well done, suddenly those lines become lines in the sand.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're easier to push through, you know? Because I imagine the experience that a lot of those people have had is they have read something that wasn't executed very well, or that was on the darker side, and they're not dark romance readers. And so then they go all the way to the other side and say, I just need everybody to be really nice to each other, and there needs to not be anybody doing anything bad. And it's like, I think you'd find some joy and some excitement in reading people who are more in the gray area, you know?
For sure. Like I'm reflecting back on the last series that really, really gripped me. I've talked about it ad nauseum, the Locked Tomb series. There's a character that straight up, like, something tragic happens and she pulls the memory does a lobotomy on herself, pulls it out so she forgets this character completely. And I was so pissed that she did that because she basically was like, this is so painful. I'm going to forget this even happened. And that the person that she forgot was like my favorite character. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And like for the entire book, I read it mad. And then of course, when it eventually turns and things come together, I'm like, yay. But like, that's good writing, right? Like, I think if you can execute it to where you love this character so much, but they fuck up fundamentally. And you're like, why the fuck would you do that? But then at that point, you're rooting for them to make sense of it or fix themselves, or the person forgive them and give them a chance to, you know, not be this terrible, or they're still going to be flawed, but redeem themselves in a way to where they could heal and grow and be a better person from it. But yeah, it takes skill, it takes good writing. And that's, you know, I think we tend to lean into more comfort and easy to digest, knock it out in a plane ride kind of thing, and not like really sit with the uncomfortable things because they can be uncomfortable and icky.
Right. But I mean, if a lot of the most popular books, movies, TV shows are about very complex, almost anti-heroes. So we definitely have it in us to sympathize with imperfect people who hurt people, but aren't doing it to be cruel.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So I just, to go back to the labeling of the stories and calling things reverse, I just think that all has to do with, if you wrote a really complex story, then how do you market it? What buckets do you put it into?
Yeah, that could be hard. I mean, I think we're overdue, and especially in the romance world, for us to stop trying to wedge things into buckets. Like, I think there's always going to be a place for fun, tropey, just turn your brain off, have a good time romances. I love those. I write those. But I think we can start doing it like, it's not Grumpy Sunshine, it's not Hurt Comfort. It just is a story, and just read it. It's a romance, it's going to be happily ever after, but everything in between, that's between you and the book. You know what I mean? But again, how the fuck do you market that? But yeah, we can get to that point, I think. Especially as new readers come in, we've got, the genre right now is robust. Like, we have so many new authors coming in that I'm waiting for that tide to shift and for somebody to like kind of take lead and spearhead something new. Yeah.
Well,
this conversation like really branched out. I'm so happy.
Well, that's how it should be. So if you have thoughts on all of that, any of that, let us know in the comments. Go check us out on social media and also at our Patreon. Just search Hoof and Fang, and we will be there for you. And we are off to Queers and Quills.
Yeah. So we'll be out there this whole weekend.
We're going to be out there this whole weekend.
Yeah.
I'm going to call it right now.
Okay.
I don't think we're doing an episode next week. I think even if we said right now, like, oh yeah, we'll both be back by Tuesday, we'll do it. I don't think it's happening.
Yeah, we'll see. We're going to plan on not doing it. Yeah, we'll plan on not doing it. But if for whatever reason both of us are feeling froggy, we'll give it a shot. But probably not. We'll probably be tired.
Yeah. So in the meantime, if you're on our Patreon, go check us out. We will be posting things over the weekend. Otherwise, expect us back in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.